So for today's video, you join me down at Cottington Lakes over in Kent, and this is actually a complex of lakes which is all bookable through the Swimbooker app. Now later in the video I'll tell you a bit more about the app and obviously the lakes as well, but for now, as you can see, my rods are out behind me, so let's jump into the swim and I'll tell you where I'm fishing, how I'm fishing and what's happened so far on this session. Okay, so let's get you guys caught up a little bit because I'm not even on the lake that I intended to be on. So long old drive this morning and turned up and it was actually quite busy. I was due to be on a lake called 𝗃𝗃. There's some very, very big fish in there. I think they go up to, I think the biggest one has broken 50 pound. So very big fish, good head of 40s, good head of 30s. And yeah, a good chance that if you do catch something, it's going to be a very, very big fish. But like I say, unfortunately, when I turned up, it was very busy. There was a couple of swims available, which is obviously the bonus of booking or doing online bookings like through the Swimbooker app, because you know that if you've made a booking, there is going to be a swim. But the swims that were available, it was either slotting in between people or it was one tucked away in the corner. And if I'm honest, I didn't really fancy that, especially with filming. I wanted somewhere a little bit quieter. And so I opted to actually change lake, which was easy enough to do. Just the guys at the office gave Swimbooker a call and they moved me onto a lake called Christine, which has still got a very good stock. There's still 40s in here, still a good head of 30s and a good head of upper 20s as well. We'll go a little bit more into those two lakes in particular later in the video. But just getting you up to date, I am, yes, now on a lake called Christine, and this is the swim that I'm fishing. So rods out first thing was the main thing to do, because we're in a weird phase at the moment where it is very hot, sticky, horrible weather. So I didn't film a great deal of putting the rods out, just got a few clips. But I initially started with my right hand rod going out towards the island. I did have a couple of casts around and it's quite shallow and it's also quite silty as well. But I did find at about 7 wraps on that right hand rod towards the island, which probably works out about 10 yards off the island, it actually felt a bit smoother, a little bit harder, a little bit smoother. So I thought I'd put a rod on there, and then my left hand rod I've actually put along the reed line to my left. So nobody else can really get to that sort of water because I am the swim that's most left on the lake, and then there's a big reed line, and then the swim opposite is actually the next swim on the lake, if that makes sense. So yeah, no one can get to that reed line, so I thought that was going to be a good option as well. That rod has stayed in place, but the rod towards the island I have actually moved as well, a little bit more over into that open water that no one else can really get to, because I've seen quite a bit of movement along a certain line. So I thought it was worth moving that rod over as well. There's been bits of fizzing, there's been actual shows of fish, whereas towards the island, I haven't really seen anything at all. I was just going on what felt right. But now I've seen fish, I'd always much rather act on seeing fish. But we've been through it with the weather as well. So like I say, it's been very hot and sticky. I think yesterday was probably the hottest day of the year so far, hitting about 30 degrees. And to be fair, I did speak to a few people on 𝗃𝗃 and they said they're just not having it. It's so hot. They're up in the layers. They couldn't get them to take a floater. It was just dead. So that was another reason that I moved on to here as well, because apparently this has been fishing quite well. And they spawned for the first time a couple of weeks ago, so they should be in a good place where they are actually looking for a little bit of food. But alongside the very warm, hot, sticky, horrible weather, I've had about 2 hours of rain, which doesn't make sense, especially now when my legs are probably massively overexposed and it's beaming hot again. We did have a massive downpour, which went on for about 2 hours. So that's why I've only just really given you a bit of an update and to get you into where I am, how I'm fishing and where we're at. So over the course of the session, obviously I'll tell you a little bit more in depth about how I'm fishing, and when I come to actually bring the rods in, change them, get them ready for the night, I'll show you exactly what I'm using kind of tactics wise. But bait wise, I've just put a few catapults out for now. There was someone in here and someone in the swim next door for the last 48 hours, and I believe they had 6 fish in that time. But I don't know how much bait they've put in, so I just wanted to put a couple of catapults over each rod just to get a gauge of it, to see if there was loads of bubbling and I had some quick bites, and obviously they're on a bit of food and they're wanting a bit of bait, or if it's very, very quiet, then it's probably worth keeping things a little bit more minimal, because I'm just trying to get that one bite during the session. So I'm down here for 24 hours. I've literally got tonight, and I'm probably going to be off by lunchtime tomorrow, because there is more people due to come on this lake. So let's see what happens. Fingers crossed we can have one of the jewels that Cottington has to offer. This is the reed line all the way along here that I was talking about, and then that over there is actually the first swim that anyone can fish. So that shows you just how much water here no one can really get to. It must be probably about an acre of water that only either me in this swim here or the guy over here can get to. So that's why I thought it was a good idea to get one along this reed line, because this is literally the only swim that can fish it. But then, like I say, coming off this reed line pretty much along here, about here, is where I've been seeing them bubbling away, moving up and down. So that's where I've moved that right hand rod onto. Well, good morning, and I'm not going to lie, it's not often that I can do a morning piece and say that I had a successful night, but last night I did. So probably about 8, 9 o'clock yesterday evening, the guy put the generator on to start the pump being fed into the lake, and obviously that creates a bit of aeration, a bit of movement on the water, that kind of thing, and that's actually very close to the spot that I'd been feeding along the reed line. So started that up, and you could see a little bit of activity. You could see fish moving about, not necessarily carp, just fish in general. And I thought, okay, that could lead to something. A couple of hours later, it was about 11 o'clock, and my left-hand rod, which is pretty much on where the pump or where the inlet was coming into the lake, screamed off, bent right round, and resulted in an 8-pound ghostie. Now, I didn't film that because it was pitch black. The fish was very lively, to say the least. So I just slipped that one back quickly, got the rod back out on the spot. And then this morning I had a slightly bigger one, and I have filmed that already. Put it back, but I will show you the footage of him because he was a cool little fish, so I'll play that now. Well, there we go, the biggest of the night, but certainly not one of the biggest in the lake. He's probably only about 12 pounds, something like that. But very, very cool little common, really cool golden colours as well. It's a really nice little fish and very healthy. He fought very, very hard. So yeah, it's testament to how healthy the stock is. And I think that's because they got the aerators running all the time, and obviously the pump that was going in last night as well, like I've said already. So yeah, really cool. Slipping back. It's definitely time for a couple more. So yeah, it's always nice to have a couple of bites when you have travelled a long way. You've come to a new venue that you know absolutely nothing about. So to have a couple on that first night, obviously only... So yeah, a couple of fish last night. It's still early, it's about 8 o'clock this morning. We've had a little bit of rain this morning, so it's the first time I've really been able to get out properly and do a bit of an update. But it feels like there could definitely be a chance of more fish. Now, the guy's actually packing up behind me at the moment, and I keep looking over his way, and there's a certain area that there's just constant fizzing. And there's been a couple of fish showing it as well. So I'm hoping, because the reed line here seems a little bit quiet this morning, I'm hoping if he reels in fairly soon and no one else turns up, I can ping a rod over and try and nab one of the ones that's over there showing, because they're clearly feeding there, but at the moment it's in his water, so I can't put a rod there. But there could be a brief period of time, an hour or two, where that swim's free, that I can have a rod there, and you never know, it might lead to something. So I'm going to have another coffee, and then I will tell you a little bit more about the lakes as a whole and about Swimbooker as well. So yeah, let's get the kettle on. Right, so I've managed to get that rod over to the spot that I wanted to, where I'd seen the fizzing, and one just lumped out behind me. So I'm hopeful that there is still a chance of another bite before I leave. I've still got a few hours left, but I thought I'd just take this chance to talk to you a little bit about Swimbooker and about Cottington Lakes, so you know kind of what's in here and you know a little bit about the venue. So coming up around here should be my phone screen, and as you can see, this is the Swimbooker homepage of the app, and first glance you see that there's all sorts of information here. So we'll break it down a little bit. There's fly-throughs, which are basically drone tours of certain venues. They haven't done it on all of the venues, but they are slowly building that and creating a bigger and bigger database. But you've also got 360-degree virtual tours, and that is where someone's gone around a whole lake and basically filmed the whole swim with a 360 camera and then pieced everything together. So on the venues that they've done that, again, you can really get a good grasp of what the swim's going to be like that you're planning to book. Now, not every venue allows booking on the swims. Sometimes it's just booking a place on the lake, which is what Cottington is. So that's why, well, I explained it yesterday, but obviously I turned up, it was quite a busy lake. And in terms of filming, I always prefer somewhere a little bit quieter. So that's why I've moved from one lake to the other, because it was quieter and just worked out better for making this piece. You've got diaries, you've got social bits and pieces. Scrolling down, you've got just a list of bookable venues at a glance, catch reports. So there's so much to this app. I think it's just a case of get it downloaded and have a good old search through, because otherwise I'll be talking for hours about it. But like I say, I'm wanting to tell you a little bit about Cottington Lakes because that is where I am for this session. So if I go into the search, first thing you see is a map of the country and then Swimbooker logos all over it. These are all the venues that are bookable through the app. But if I search for Cottington, because that is where we are, straight away it pops up here. And the first thing you see is an image of the lakes and also the location as well. It says Kent, and then you've got the postcode. So you've got an indication of exactly where it is. The other thing, or well, I say the other thing, there's quite a few things to go through. But a nice thing is the live availability. So if you click on that, you can then search onto whatever lake. Now, there's only 3 lakes on Swimbooker on this complex that are bookable, even though it lists everything. And that is 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏, which is actually technically one lake, because it was basically 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 was the lake, and then they dug a bigger lake or an extension to the lake, and they've still categorized it as 2 lakes. So you book depending what part of the lake you want to be on. And Christine Lake, which is the one that I'm on. So they are the 3 bookable sections. So if we go on to Christine, you can then see all the availability for August. Now this looks really busy, and that's because it's quite a small lake. It's 3.5 acres in size, and it's only limited to 6 anglers at any one time, which is nice because you've all then got your own bit of water, and obviously it works out a much quieter venue on the whole. So that was a big plus for me, and that's partly why I moved the lake. But if we change that back to, say, 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏, for example, you can see there's a lot more availability on there, and it's categorized into kind of a lot of availability. Amber means it is fairly busy, and then red means it is completely booked out. So you get that at a glance, you know kind of what the situation is for the month ahead. So you also know if it's been really heavily fished in the week leading up to you wanting to come fishing, or if it's had quite a quiet week. So it gives you a bit of an idea of how everything has been going before you're even here. But coming off that, obviously you've got rules and you've got all sorts of information, weather for the local area, and then just an overview about the venue as a whole. So day ticket, there's disabled access. Guests are allowed, I believe that's only for the day. I might be wrong on that. But yeah, you can book certain lakes as lake exclusives. You are allowed to fish nights. They hold matches. So it's really nice to have them quick facts just to give you a quick idea of things. And then it tells you what you can book. So like I say, it's 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. But then if you go onto something like Black Lake, for example, this is more of a general course fishing lake, then it doesn't allow you to book. It's all just first come, first serve, and you pay your day ticket when you arrive. But if we go on to, let's talk about 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 a little bit. Like I say, New and Old is actually one lake, and it's about 7 acres in size. And basically, there is a very, very good stock, which is why I initially booked onto it. There's 200 fish in about 7 acres. And it says here that about 40 of them are weighing between 30 to 40 pounds. Now that is a ridiculous stock. There's very good odds, if you get a bite, that it could well be a 30 pound or bigger, because not only is there the 40 different 30s, there's also 14 fish over the 40 pound mark, up to 51 pound. So that is a phenomenal stock for a day ticket. So you can see why I really wanted to fish that lake. But like I say, it didn't work out for this trip. So I'll have to come back, I think, another time, maybe when I'm not filming, and actually come and just have a session down here and be in with a shout of one of those proper fish, because they are cool fish as well. So if we go back to the start of the Cottington Lakes profile, you can see some of these fish are very, very cool fish. So yeah, I mean, there are mega fish to go at. But if we move back over to Christine, which is the lake that I'm on, like I say, 3.5 acres, only 6 swims, but there's still a good amount of fish to go at. And I was talking to the head bailiff yesterday, and he was saying that there's actually fish up to 43 pound in here now. So it says 39 on here, but they've actually got bigger, and they're up to 43 pound. There's still a good head of 30s. He was saying there's a lot of upper 20s as well. So I think with my 2 𝗃𝗶𝗶𝗿, or my 8 pound ghostie and my 12 pound common, I think I was a little bit unlucky. But there's still time. I've probably got a few hours left of the rods being in the water, and there has been a lot of fish moving about. Granted, it's got hot already. They are up in the water. I've seen dorsals out and backs out, but that doesn't mean they're all going to be that way. And with it being quite a shallow lake, it doesn't take much for them to drop down. So keeping everything crossed, I'm going to head back to my swim, keep an eye on it. If I see loads of activity in a certain area, then maybe I'll move a rod onto it. But yeah, for now, we've just got to take it as it comes. Well, I can't ignore it anymore. There's so many fish that are either on or just under the surface. I'm going to get a couple of adjustable zigs out. I've got a couple of hours left, and I just feel like rods on the bottom just aren't going to do anything. It's so hot, so sticky, that this seems probably the best option right now. It's probably not ideal using 𝗲𝗷𝗿𝗆𝗃, but I haven't got anything else. So I still feel like I've got a better chance this way for the last couple of hours, because it's only going to get hotter and stickier and horrible. So I might as well try my best. I'm just going to use a tiny little 𝗃𝗏𝗏 pop-up. I think they're 12mm, and using adjustable zigs, because I'm literally going to be near enough surface fishing, I'd say, but with a zig set up instead. So let's get these tied up and get them out there for the last little bit. There is so many out there, and they're all following a similar kind of line. So I'm hoping, how's that looking? I'm hoping I can just nab one of them as they come along that line. Right, so I'm wanting this to be literally just under the surface. So if I start tightening down, the float has just disappeared. I can now see the foam just starting to move, and the foam is just about to disappear. Right, that is literally on the surface. So if I now clip a bobbin on, that should, the weight of the bobbin should just about, just come back a little bit. Right. That is about bang on, like an inch under the surface. So that is perfect. I'm going to tighten the clutch right up. So I'm using adjustables, but there's still obviously, say, a 2 foot hook length. So there's still going to be a bit of movement for them to, before they hook themselves. Well, as much as I really don't want to bring the rods in, that is time, and I don't know how it hasn't happened on the zigs. I've been moving them about a little bit. I've been having them literally just touching the surface, about a foot under. There has been fish moving about, and one very big one in particular as well. and his dorsal came out of the water at one point and it was literally the size of my hand. So he was very, very close to my hook bait, but wouldn't take it. So going to admit defeat on the zig front, but I'm happy that I've caught a couple of fish. Granted, they weren't the biggest ones, but it's always nice to save a blank, isn't it? And that common this morning was a really nice one as well, really nice colours. A couple more things to keep you updated with on Cottington is I was speaking to the head bailiff again this morning, and where I mentioned there's that 43 pounder, supposedly there's 5 or 6 in here. That's a lot of fish to go at in a 3.5 acre lake. So don't be disheartened if you don't get on pepper, because there is more than a good enough backup, and the fish seem to be catchable. Like I say, unfortunately, I did have the 2 of the smallest ones probably in the lake, but they are definitely catchable. So yeah, definitely come down here if you're local or if you fancy a bit of a trip, because there's a lot of good fish to be had and a lot of good fishing to be had. But like I say, for more information about this place, definitely download that Swimbooker app. You can find out everything you need to know about it, prices, like I say, the availability and all sorts as well. So all I've got to say now is thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Maybe 10 more minutes just in case.